Have you ever stared at a trading chart and thought, there is just too much going on? I don't even know where to start. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a simple trade plan using God's own creation method so that you can move from chaos to clarity. But first, I'm Pepper. This is Godly Trading, and thank you for being here. Now, we're going to be reading from God's Word, which is the world's best trading manual, and learning how to build a trade plan using God's own step-by-step creation process. So today we're going to start in Genesis 1:1. My mom used to always say it all begins in Genesis. And no matter what question you asked her, she would start in Genesis. And we're going to look at the 10 principles that God used to create everything. Actually, we're going to start just prior to Genesis 1:1, because principle number 1 was God's purpose. God had to set his intention first. He had to decide to do something different. But since God cannot change his character, all he was doing here was changing his relationship. Now for us, this starts with being someone different, using the be, do, have principle. We must set our intention to be a trader that honors God first and serves our family and those around us next. Principle number 2 is we use God's parameters. So after God sets his intention, we see that God established the boundaries of creation before he does anything else. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." So in verse 1, we see that God creates time, space, and matter. Did you catch that bit? So in the beginning, that's time. God created. So this is him following through on his intention. The heavens, that's space, and the earth, that's matter. Everything that ever was or is or will be is contained within that framework. That's an amazing thought in and of itself. So in the same way, your trade plan is going to encompass everything you will ever do in trading, from what was, I like to think of that as your back testing, to what is, this is how you're trading right now, to what will be. This is your future. Maybe you're going to move from being a trader to a trading business owner. The parallel of time, space, and matter in our trading is we have our resources, that's matter, and we have the system that we are trading within our chosen market, that's space. And then our ability to be disciplined and patient is clearly time. So we made the decision to create a plan. We set our intention, God's purpose. We set up the framework for how we're going to create that plan. And now we're ready to take the first step of actually creating that plan. We're going to use principle number 3, which is one of the best ones of all, God's presence. So verse 2 says, "Now the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters." Now, I love diving into the intention, the meanings of these words. And the word "was" in here, as in the earth was void. It's the word haya in Hebrew, and it means to be, but it also means to become. So the earth was, or the earth became without form. There's a biblical principle here at play that disruption always follows intention. The first thing that happens to you after you set an intention to do something, generally something negative. So we see the description of the earth here as well. It's formless and it is void. In Hebrew, those two words mean confusion, emptiness, void, and a place of chaos. Has your trading ever felt like that? Have you ever been confused? Has your trading ever left you feeling empty? Has it ever felt like a place of chaos? I could go down that road, but I don't have time. it goes on to say that darkness was on the face of the deep. And the word for darkness there also means obscurity, hard to see, hard to figure out. Does that at all sound like your trading when you first started, or maybe even now? Almost like there's a cloud hanging over your trading that's obscuring your ability to see it clearly. And for many of us, not only is that how we start out, it continues that way. We have the best of intentions. We're like, hey, let's get into trading and earn some extra money for our families. And maybe we even have a moment of success, like what's happened here. Hey, look, a planet got formed. But then the inevitable usually happens. We have some difficulty, usually fairly quickly, and suddenly we can't see anything. It's obscured. We feel empty and confused and formless, chaotic. So how do you fix that? What is the solution to this problem from God's perspective? Well, what does the text say? What made the change in the earth? The Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Now, this word hovering is only used 3 times in the entire Bible. And the second time it's used is describing a mother eagle spreading her wings over her young. So that's what the fix is for chaotic, confusing, empty trading. It's God's presence, inviting God into what we are doing. Ask him to hover over our trading as we build this plan piece by piece. So the next principle we find is God's partition. This is one of the most important aspects of this entire process of God's breaking down the creation of everything. And he could have said it in an instant. Genesis 1:1 could have simply said, in the beginning, God created everything. And then we move on to Genesis 2. But he didn't. He wanted us to see how to tackle a problem. You break it down into small pieces and you tackle them one at a time, one day at a time. So I love this God's partition principle. Genesis chapter 1, verses 3 to 5 says, Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. First, the most critical aspect of this first element of creation is that God didn't actively create it. It doesn't say God created light. It said, God said, let there be light. God said, boy, you know what? I would sure like it for light to exist. And it did. Our God is big. He just willed that it would be so, and it happened. So, but what he does here next is the most critical element to show you. He simply divides one thing from another. He takes the most important aspect of our everyday life, which is light. We could not exist without it. And he separates it from darkness. Notice, he doesn't create darkness. He separated light from it, and that's what was left over. He calls it good, and he calls it a day. Literally, he calls it a day. God separates the light from the darkness, calls it good, calls it day, and evening and morning. That was the first day. So what's the single most important aspect of your trading? We were all raised in elementary school, I think it was, when we learned those 6 questions of, it's like journalism, right? Who, what, where, when, why, how. We've heard those. And most traders, most trading teachers, most trading programs, most areas of social media that I have seen focus on how to trade and what to trade and where to trade. But the biggest questions, the most important question of all in trading is why, and then who. And we answered the why with principle number 1, God's purpose. Our purpose is to honor God, that's our why, and to serve our families, that's our who. So the next most critical question you can possibly answer is when. And this is where this partitioning idea comes in. Partition your day off between trading time and non-trading time. Just separate it. Separate these like day from night. Build walls around your trading time. Build walls around your non-trading time. Then stop worrying about it. Don't let trading outside of its boundaries. Celebrate the time that you have, however much time that you do have to trade. Hey guys, we'll get back to the video in just a second, but I wanted to take just a minute to talk to you about trading with joy. Now, as far as I know, this is the only book ever written about trading from a biblical perspective. And what we do is we walk through the fruit of the Spirit from Galatians to help you overcome discouragement that plagues all of us as traders. And we go through each one of those from love, joy, peace, patience, all the way to self-control until we get to the point where we can actually trade with joy every single day. And then we go out and spread that joy to others and help them along in their journey. So if you have not gotten it yet, I would encourage you to go to tradingwithjoybook.com. There'll be a link down in the description. And we've got this in paperback, there's an ebook, and there's an audio book. And coming soon, we'll have a video version of this as well. So thanks for watching. Now back to the video. Pick a time, celebrate it. Call it good and then call it a day. And then move on to principle number 5, which is God's positioning. Pick it up in verse 6. Verse 6 through 8. It says, "Then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." In other words, the waters above from the waters below. Thus God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Now, the first separation we saw was foundational, light from dark. This separation is positional, above from below. God created this thing he called heaven, which is what we call the sky, the atmosphere, to separate two main physical aspects of our planet at the time. We had water above, we had water below. The whole story about what happened to the water above later on in Genesis. So once you have nailed down when you can trade, you then separate out the physical areas of your trading world. In other words, where you can trade. That's your markets. So many people that I meet come to me not knowing how to trade successfully, but already having a predetermined preference for a particular market. Usually it's futures. I don't know why. But God didn't create the atmosphere first. It was the byproduct of this separation. When you pick your when, you will automatically separate out some markets that aren't available to you. And that is fantastic. Too many choices can be just as debilitating as not enough choices. My wife refers to it as decidophobia. Don't give her 10 choices, give her 3. This is the main benefit of this simple separation technique. Don't move on to the next step until you've done this step. And this step is just very simple. At the end of this step, you can say, well, I can trade for 2 hours every evening, or I can trade 30 minutes at lunch, or I can trade for an hour on the weekends. And these are the markets available to me at that time. So that brings us to principle number 6, God's production. Genesis chapter 1, verses 9 to 13. Then God said, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So evening and the morning were the third day. And first thing we see out of this area of God's creation plan isn't a separation or a partitioning like in the previous 2 days, but a gathering together. He brought dry land up out of the water and gathered the water all into one place. So think of your trading when and your where in this way. They're an island of potential productivity in a sea of chaos. God calls this productive land good and then tells it to start producing, right? God creates the land and it says, let the earth bring forth, let the seas bring forth, start producing. And it does. Once you have your land prepped, it's time to decide what to plant. And yes, one of the biggest mindset shifts that a trader can make is to see themselves more as farmers than as merchants. And I know that goes against everything that we feel and see and hear out there, especially on social media, about instant profits, instant wins, making all that money quickly. There are so many agricultural references and principles in the Bible, the principles of sowing and reaping. By the way, also notice that what God plants reproduces on its own. That's what we want in our trading. But take a page from a farmer, right? No one's planting watermelon in Alaska, or you're not planting cactus in the swamps of Louisiana. Everything has its place. And once you know when and where, you will have limited your choice of what to trade automatically. Then it's simply an exercise to see what will reproduce best in the ground that you have. If you have a small account, you're probably not trading even a single share of Berkshire Hathaway. Even Tesla, it's over $400 a share. You're going to have a hard time reproducing if you've only got a $500 account. So your resources are going to be driving that decision as well. But you can see how this simple step-by-step plan can get you from the chaos of trading anything, anywhere, anytime to, I trade Forex for an hour each night. Production requires boundaries. Seeds grow where they are planted first before they spread out on their own. So pick one thing and stick to it until the harvest time comes, because the harvest is not the goal. Harvest is the result. Production leads to provision. Fruit's the outcome, not the focus. God created plants that yielded seeds, and that provision flows from production. Income flows from consistency. You don't chase the fruit, you cultivate the ground. And then after harvest, you repeat, because production requires repetition. So after God's production, principle number 7, God's patterns. This is where my mom would geek out on a regular basis. My mom loved astronomy. So verses 14 to 19. Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it was so. Then God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. So evening and the morning were the 4th day. I love this bit. God didn't just create light all around us. He created light that we could use not only to light our way and to photosynthesize our celery, but to guide us and to segment our days and our months and our years. He created patterns. This is your how. Every market that you could possibly explore is just patterns that repeat themselves over and over. And just like astronomers, my mom taught me this laying on the roof of our house every summer evening. Just like the astronomers built what we know today about calendars and time by studying God's patterns. So you can learn everything you need to know about your market by studying God's patterns. Patterns don't just tell you when to enter. They tell you when it's not your season. In my case, pattern means I'm a trend trader. And there are certain patterns to every trend that happen over and over again. This has allowed me to create indicators that I can put on my chart to recognize and alert me to those patterns so that I know when to get into a trade and ride a trend, or when to avoid a trade. Frankly, I kind of think of my indicators in the same way that as God created the lights in the sky. They are my lights in the sky that tell me how to enter, how to manage my risk, how to collect my profits. And yes, of all the patterns out there in trading, recognizing trend is the most important, at least in my opinion. Recognizing what the trend is answers all of the other decisions. And recognizing within yourself how you want to participate in that trend. You're going to follow the trend, you're going to go against it. We've got an exercise in our training program that helps you recognize both a trend on a chart and the trend or counter trend impulse within yourself, your trading DNA, we call it. By the way, Notice that the sun and the moon don't ask permission. They rule the day and the night. Your system must rule over this aspect of you. You don't get to overrule it because you feel something. Once you have built this plan, you follow it without day-by-day disruption. So that leads us to principle number 8, God's proliferation. I love that word. Starting in chapter 1, verse 20 through 23. Then God said, let the waters abound, proliferate, with an abundance of living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament of the heavens. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves with the water, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. So the evening and the morning were the 5th day. So here we see the beginning of the system that God put in place. Take action. This is multiplication in motion. This is observable obedience. Notice, by the way, this is the first time that God blesses anything. Previously, he had called things good, but now that the system's in place and functioning, he tells the animals that when they go out and perform inside this system the way they were created to, they will multiply or bear fruit. This is their blessing and ours, and yours in this framework of creating your trade plan. Once you have your plan set up according to God's system, it's time to stand on his promise of a blessing and go out and proliferate. Some of you just heard that. And when you did, maybe there were some prosperity gospel alarm bells going off. I get it. We're going to talk about the whole concept of biblical prosperity another time. But that does point to something that some of you might want to consider. In order to go out and be fruitful, you might need a mindset change first. Birds and fish didn't need to be told that their attempts at reproduction would succeed. They just did it because that's what God told them to do. All too often, we let the enemy come in and convince us that we don't deserve profits or prosperity or to make progress. So this might be the step where you focus on being someone new so that you can go out and do what he called you to do so that you can have what he promised. Remember, in this doubt that you have about whether you deserve or you should have these things, God called this good. Who are we to argue? So that leads us to principle number 9, God's partnership. Verse 24. Then God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. I just love the fact that God says, let this happen, and it happened. Verse 25. And God made the beast of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, and everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. It's a whole other video that I'm not going down that road. I'll get banned by YouTube again. Then God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Now this one is tough for some people to accept. Yes, God is the all-powerful sovereign ruler of everything. But he delegated the authority of governing earth to us. He didn't relinquish sovereignty. He delegated responsibility. And our job is to do our job. God blessed our efforts before he even told us what to do. Verse 28 said he blessed them first, and then he told them to be fruitful, and do multiply and subdue the earth and have dominion. There's that be, do, have principle. Whole other video. So in your trading, nothing will ever be as important as recognizing that you are out there fulfilling the calling and command from God. It will help you combat the naysayers, frankly, who tell you that Christians shouldn't trade. But it will also help you remember that you and I are not in charge. Our job is to operate within the boundaries of the framework God created, living out the plan God put before us, all for His glory, not ours. Farmers plant for God's glory. God gives the increase, and the harvest is the side effect of obedience. For trading, this means following your plan and letting God be God. In other words, whatever happens is in His hand. And lastly, remembering that we are a steward of His creation helps us keep trading in perspective. Trading is our job, not our life. It's an activity, not an identity. And then finally, principle number 10, God's peace. Last verse in chapter 1, then God saw everything He had made, and indeed it was very good. Everything else was good. This one was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. And then continuing on to chapter 2. Thus all the heavens and the earth and all the host of them were finished. And on the seventh day, God ended His work which He had done. And He rested on the seventh day from all His work which He had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it He rested from all His work which God had created and made. Once you are done creating your plan, close the book on it and go out and trade your plan. But make sure that you have built in a time not just for rest, as God showed us the example here, but sanctification. What is sanctification? Sanctify means to set something apart. Setting apart your trading time from the rest of your life. Setting apart the way you behave while you are trading. Setting apart your purpose and your goals. That's why a trade plan is so much more than just entries and exits. It's a guidebook for how you live your life as a trader. If you want to share in God's peace as a trader, put this prayer into your daily trade plan. Very simple. Before you get started every day, God, give me the wisdom to trade in a way that honors you and serves others. So from chaos to clarity, building one small step at a time. This is God's creation method for your trading. I'll see you next time.